Precisely 12 p.m., November 5th, 1952, at the Capuchin monastery in San Giovanni Rotondo. The monastery bell had just struck noon when Padre Pio abruptly raised his eyes from his breviary. His stigmatized hands trembled. The wounds, marking 54 years of mystical suffering, seemed to pulsate with a new intensity. "Padre, are you all right?" asked Klaus Bäcker, a young German chaplain recently arrived from a mission in the Bavarian Alps. The Italian saint did not respond immediately. His gaze passed through Klaus as if he was seeing beyond him to something invisible, something terrible. "They do not know," Padre Pio finally murmured. His voice held that strange tonality that Klaus would come to recognize, a voice that seemed to come from another realm. "They possess the keys to protection, and they leave them to gather dust. 5 objects, 5 shields against the unseen enemy. And no one is telling them." Klaus Bäcker set down his own breviary. It was 12:02 p.m. This precise moment would change not only his life, but the lives of thousands of faithful across a war-torn Europe. "What objects, Padre?" The Capuchin rose with difficulty. At 65 years old, his body bore the visible stigmata of the crucified Christ. Hands, feet, side. But Klaus knew now that there were invisible stigmata, deeper ones. Those of a soul that saw what others could not. Padre Pio headed toward the small chapel adjacent to his cell. Klaus followed, aware that he was about to receive something precious, something that could not be found in any theology textbook, any seminary course. "Listen closely," Padre Pio said, kneeling before the tabernacle. "What I am about to reveal to you. It was Our Lady herself who showed it to me this morning at dawn. She was weeping, Klaus. The Mother of God was weeping because her children walk unprotected in a world that grows darker and darker." Klaus felt his throat tighten. He had survived the war. He had seen Munich in ruins. He had administered the last rites to dying soldiers, crying out their mothers' names. He knew exactly what darkness Padre Pio was speaking of. "First object," the saint began, "the family rosary." "But Padre, all Catholics possess rosaries." "No." Padre Pio's voice was firm, almost severe. "Not a personal rosary, a family rosary, blessed specifically for the protection of the entire family, a single rosary that carries the prayers of all, father, mother, children, even those who are far away, even those who have lost their faith." Klaus opened his notebook. His hands trembled slightly. He understood that he must note everything with precision. "This rosary," Padre Pio continued, "must be blessed by a priest who invokes protection upon the entire family line. It does not remain in a pocket or a drawer. It is hung in the home, visible at the entrance, or near the family altar. Each member of the family passing by can touch it and make the sign of the cross. It is a visible covenant, Klaus, a constant reminder that this house belongs to God." The Capuchin fell silent for a few moments, lost in a vision that Klaus could not see. "I saw a house in France," Padre Pio resumed, his voice now almost a whisper. "In Liverpool, on Penny Lane, a family named Rousseau. The father lost his faith after the Somme. The mother prays in secret. 3 children who are growing up without spiritual direction. But the grandmother, Agnes Rousseau, she possesses an old rosary that her own father had blessed in 1847. This rosary has survived 3 wars. And do you see what happens?" Klaus waited, holding his breath. In 1947, the eldest son, Michael Rousseau, 22 years old, is about to commit suicide, post-war depression. He goes up to the attic with a rope, but passing by his grandmother's room, he sees this old rosary hanging on the wall. Something in those worn beads stops him. He cannot explain why. He enters the room, takes the rosary, and for the first time in 6 years, he prays. Padre Pio's eyes now glistened with tears. Michael Rousseau did not die that day. He became a priest. Today, in 1952, he leads a mission for traumatized veterans in Manchester, all because of a blessed family rosary. Klaus wrote rapidly. His heart was pounding. This was not theory. These were not abstract concepts. These were real lives, saved by concrete, sacramental objects. Second object, Padre Pio said, rising slowly. Personal holy water. We have holy water in all the churches, Padre. Yes. But how many families keep holy water in their homes? Padre Pio's question resonated in the small chapel. Klaus, listen. The enemy does not attack you only in church. He attacks you in your bed at night, in your kitchen in the morning, in your thoughts while you work. Holy water must be where you live. The saint walked towards a small table, where a simple glass bottle, filled with clear water, rested. This was blessed on Easter Sunday. Easter holy water carries a special power, a grace of resurrection. Every family should have a small bottle of holy water near their bed, near the front door, even in the car if possible. Klaus frowned. In the car, Padre? Isn't that excessive? Padre Pio looked at him with that intensity that seemed to pierce the soul. Excessive? You carry a first aid kit in your car, don't you? You carry a spare tire? But you wouldn't carry spiritual protection. Klaus, accidents are not always accidental. The young German chaplain felt a chill run down his spine. He thought immediately of an incident that had occurred 3 months prior, on the road between Munich and Augsburg. Tell me about it, Padre Pio said, as if he were reading directly into his thoughts. Klaus hesitated, then began. I was on my way to administer last rites to a dying man, a mountain road. Suddenly the steering wheel seemed to have a will of its own. The car was heading straight for the ravine. I cried out the name of Jesus and the car stopped right at the edge. Padre Pio finished. Your wheels were already hanging over the void, but something held you back. A mechanic later told you that it was physically impossible, that the car should have tumbled. Klaus felt his legs weaken beneath him. How do you know all of this, Padre Pio? Because I was there. Not physically, but in prayer. And do you know why I was able to help you? Because you had your breviary blessed by your bishop, and you always kept it in the glove compartment. That blessed object acted as an anchor for divine grace. Klaus sat heavily on a nearby bench. The implications of what he was hearing were daunting. Holy water, Padre Pio continued, works in the same way. It's not magic, Klaus. It's faith made tangible. When you sprinkle your house with holy water, you are declaring this space belongs to God. Dark forces are not welcome here. The Italian saint paused, then added with particular intensity, especially in the evening before bed, sprinkle the corners of your room. Trace a cross with the holy water on your forehead, your chest, your hands. You cannot imagine how many nighttime attacks are repulsed by this simple gesture. Nighttime attacks. Klaus felt his voice tremble slightly. Nightmares that are not just nightmares. Sleep paralysis, sensations of suffocation, night terrors in children, suicidal thoughts that mysteriously appear at 3 a.m. Klaus, the devil doesn't take vacations, and the hour between 3 and 4 a.m. is his favorite time. It's the exact opposite of the hour of divine mercy, which is 3 p.m. Klaus wrote furiously. All of this had to be documented. All of this had to be shared. Third object, announced Padre Pio, his voice now taking on an even more solemn tone. The Saint Benedict Medal. Klaus knew this medal. Every seminarian studied it. The cross of St. Benedict with its mysterious initials CSPB, CSSML, NDSMD. Crux sacra sit mihi lux, Klaus recited. May the Holy Cross be my light. Non Draco sit mihi dux. May the dragon not be my guide. Exactly, confirmed Padre Pio, pulling a worn medal from his pocket. But Klaus, again owning the medal is not enough. It must be blessed with the special exorcism of Saint Benedict, not just a general blessing, the specific exorcism. The saint turned the medal in his stigmatized fingers. This medal I'm holding was blessed by Dom Prosper Guéranger of the Abbey of Solesmes in 1875. It belonged to a French soldier during World War I. This soldier, Etienne Moreau, survived the Somme, Chemin des Dames, all the most deadly battles. His comrades fell around him like flies. But he didn't get a scratch. Padre Pio looked up at Klaus. Coincidence? Maybe. But listen to this. In 1918, during the final offensive, Etienne Moreau lost his medal in the mud. 3 days later, he was severely wounded by shrapnel. He survived, but he knew the medal had been protecting him. Klaus asked, "What happened to that medal, Padre?" Another soldier found it, a young German named Hans Bäcker. Klaus started. "Bäcker, that's my last name." "Your grandfather, Klaus. Hans Bäcker, Battalion 23, Bavarian Division. He found that French medal in the mud of the Somme in 1918. He didn't know what it was, but something told him to keep it. He put it around his neck, and he too survived until the armistice." Klaus's hands were now trembling openly. He knew his grandfather's story. Died in 1945 during the final days of the war in Munich. But he didn't know this. After 1918, Padre Pio continued softly, "Your grandfather kept that medal his entire life. In 1945, during the bombing of Munich, he gave it to your father, then 16 years old. 'Keep it,' he said. 'It protected me during one war. It will protect you during this one.' Then he went out to look for survivors in the rubble. He never returned." Klaus now had tears in his eyes. "My father. He always wears a St. Benedict medal. I didn't know it was that one." "And you, Klaus?" Padre Pio asked gently. "Do you wear one?" Klaus looked down. "No, Padre. I always thought it was superstition. That faith alone was enough." "Faith alone is enough for salvation," Padre Pio corrected. "But we don't live in a spiritual vacuum, Klaus. We live on a battlefield, and God, in His mercy, gives us weapons. Refusing these weapons out of intellectual pride is like a soldier refusing his helmet because his courage should be enough." The saint took another medal from a small wooden box. "This one is for you. I had it specially blessed this morning after the vision of Our Lady. Wear it always, not in your pocket, on your chest, near your heart. And when you feel discouragement, temptation, fear, touch it and pray. Crux sacra sit mihi lux. The Holy Cross is my light." Klaus received the medal with a reverence he had never felt for a material object. It wasn't the object itself, he suddenly understood. It was what it represented. It was faith made tangible. It was the grace of God anchored in the physical world. "Fourth object," said Padre Pio, now heading towards a small cabinet. "The bedroom crucifix." He took out a simple wooden crucifix, about a foot tall. The sculpted Christ was finely detailed, his face showing both suffering and serenity. "Every bedroom should have a crucifix," asserted the Capuchin, "not hidden in a drawer, not lying flat on a table. Hanging on the wall in a visible position, preferably facing the bed." Klaus noted, "Facing the bed." "Yes. So that it is the last thing you see before you sleep and the first thing you see when you wake up." "Klaus, do you know why so many people have nightmares? Why so many people wake up more tired than when they went to bed? The young chaplain shook his head. Because their room is not consecrated. It's a spiritually neutral space. And in this world, neutrality does not exist. If a space does not belong to God, it automatically becomes accessible to the enemy. Padre Pio gently caressed the crucifix in his hands. This particular crucifix has a story. It belonged to a family from Naples, the Espositos. In 1943, during the Allied bombing, their house was hit. Everything was destroyed. The walls collapsed. The roof was blown away. But do you know what remained intact? Klaus waited. The room where this crucifix was hanging, a single room standing in the middle of the ruins. The firefighters who arrived later said it was structurally impossible. The engineers couldn't explain it, but the Esposito family knew. The saint raises the crucifix toward the light filtering through the small window. The crucifix must be blessed with a special prayer. Not just, "May this crucifix be blessed." No. You must ask the priest to pray, "Lord Jesus Christ, through your sacred cross, protect this space and all who sleep within. May your presence drive away all darkness. May your sacrifice be a shield against every attack. Amen." Klaus writes each word carefully. "Fifth object," Padre Pio announces. And now his voice is barely a whisper. He moves toward the altar and touches something placed there with infinite tenderness. The scapula of Mount Carmel. He raises a simple piece of cloth. Two small squares of wool connected by cords. At first glance, it's the humblest object of all. But Klaus sees the tears now flowing freely down Padre Pio's stigmatized face. Klaus, Our Lady herself promised, "Whoever dies clothed in this garment will not suffer eternal fire." This isn't me saying it. It's the Mother of God who promised it to St. Simon Stock on July 16th, 1251. The Capuchin presses the scapula against his chest. But today, on this November 5th, 1952, she told me something more. She showed me millions of people, Klaus, millions, marching toward the abyss. And do you know what broke my heart? Klaus shakes his head, unable to speak. Many of them were baptized. Many received their first communion, but they walk without protection, like naked soldiers on a battlefield. And the scapula that could save them, is forgotten in drawers, considered a relic of the past. Padre Pio sits down heavily. The weight of what he sees seems to crush him. Let me tell you the story of Maria Goretti. Klaus startles. The little saint? The one who was killed at 12 years old defending her purity? Yes. But do you know what few people know? When Alessandro Serenelli attacked her with his awl on July 5th, 1902, Maria was wearing a scapular that her mother had given her. 14 awl wounds, Klaus. 14. The Capuchin raises 14 fingers. She died the next day, after forgiving her murderer. But here's what the doctors found. None of the 14 wounds hit a vital organ. Alessandro was striking randomly, with rage, aiming for the heart and lungs, but each blow mysteriously missed the deadly areas. Maria had 20 hours to prepare for death, to receive the sacraments, to forgive. 20 hours that the scapula gave her. Klaus feels his throat tighten. And Alessandro Serenelli? He asks. 27 years in prison. Then in 1929, he saw Maria in a vision. She held out 14 lilies to him, one for each awl wound. He converted. He became a lay brother with the Capuchins. And do you know what he wore until his death in 1970? The scapula, Klaus murmurs. The scapula, the same type of scapula that Maria wore. He said it was his only hope of ever seeing the one he had killed again. Padre Pio stands up and places the scapular around Klaus's neck. Wear it always, day and night. It's Our Lady's mantle on your shoulders. When you're tempted, when you're afraid, when you doubt, touch it and say, Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us poor sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Klaus feels the light weight of the fabric on his chest. It's just a piece of wool, but it's also a promise. It's also protection. It's also a constant reminder that he's not alone in this battle. Now, says Padre Pio, returning to the small table where his notebook rests, I'm going to tell you something very important. These 5 objects, Klaus, are not magic talismans. They're not superstitious amulets. They work because they are channels of grace, points of contact between our faith and the power of God. He sits down and lays his stigmatized hands flat on the table. But they must be blessed, and not just any way. Each object has a specific blessing. The priest must know what he's doing. He must understand that he's not just blessing an object, but that he's consecrating an instrument of spiritual protection. Klaus takes notes frantically. For the family rosary, Padre Pio continues, the priest must name the family specifically. Lord, bless this rosary for the last name family. Protect the father, first name, last name. The mother, first name, last name. The children, first names, last name. May every Hail Mary prayed with this rosary be a shield against evil for the entire lineage. For the holy water, it must be blessed with the old rite, the one that includes the exorcism of salt and water. Modern holy water without exorcism is good, but holy water with the exorcism of salt has a particular power against demonic attacks. For the Saint Benedict medal, it must receive the exorcism of Saint Benedict. It's specific. Any priest can do it. But he must use the exact formula. It's in the Roman ritual. For the bedroom crucifix, the prayer that I gave you is sufficient, but it must be said with faith and intention. The priest must understand that he's consecrating a space, not just an object. And for the scapular, it must be invested by a priest who has the faculty to do so. All Carmelites have it. Many diocesan priests do too. But you must specifically ask for the imposition of the scapular of Mount Carmel. With the appropriate prayers, Padre Pio looks at Klaus intensely. Now, Klaus, I'm going to tell you why Our Lady was weeping this morning. The young chaplain puts down his pen. He feels that what's coming is crucial. She was weeping because she sees the future. She sees the 1960s, 1970s, 1980s. She sees an era where even priests will no longer believe in the power of sacramentals, where it will be taught that these objects are optional or for the simple-minded, where they will say that inner faith is enough and that outward signs are just superstition. Padre Pio's voice becomes almost a shout. And during that time, families will disintegrate, marriages will collapse, children will be lost, depression, suicide, despair will spread like a plague, and all this because they will have thrown away their shields. The saint takes a deep breath, calming down. That's why you must document this, Klaus. You must write it down. You must share it. Even if they laugh at you, even if they call you superstitious, even if your own fellow priests roll their eyes. Klaus felt the weight of responsibility bearing down on his shoulders. But Padre, I am just a simple chaplain who will listen to me. You would be surprised. Padre Pio smiled for the first time that day. God uses the small, Klaus. He used a shepherdess at Lourdes. He used 3 children at Fatima. Why not a German chaplain at San Giovanni Rotondo? There was a long silence. The afternoon sun began to wane. It was now 2:30 p.m. More than 2 hours had passed since the noon bell had rung. I am going to give you one last piece of advice, Padre Pio said. When you return to Germany, start small. Find a family, just one family who truly wants to live this. Help them obtain these 5 objects. Help them have them blessed correctly. Then, observe. Observe what changes. Observe how the nightmares cease, how the arguments lessen, how the children become calmer, how a strange but real peace settles into that house. Then find another family, and yet another. And these families will speak to other families. And Klaus, do you know what will happen? The young chaplain shook his head. In 20 years, 30 years, even 50 years, there will be thousands of families across Europe who are still standing. Because a young German chaplain took the tears of Our Lady seriously. Klaus felt tears welling up. He understood now why he had come to San Giovanni Rotondo. It wasn't by chance. It wasn't a simple spiritual training visit. It was a divine appointment. I will do it, Padre, he said, his voice firm despite the tears. I promise. I will begin as soon as I return. Padre Pio placed his stigmatized hands on Klaus's head. The wounds were visible, slightly bloodied despite the bandages. May God bless you, Klaus Bäcker. May Our Lady cover you with her mantle. May these 5 sacred objects be for you not only a protection, but also an apostolate. Go now. Your train leaves in 3 hours. You still have time to pray a full rosary in the chapel. Klaus stood up, bowed deeply, and turned to leave. But at the door, he paused. Padre, one last question. Why today? Why specifically November 5th? Padre Pio smiled mysteriously. Because it is the day you came to see me, and God knew that you would come today, at this precise hour. He prepared this revelation for this exact moment, for you. Klaus left the cell, stunned by the revelation. In his pocket, he felt the weight of his notebook filled with notes. In his hand, he held the rosary that Padre Pio had given him. Around his neck hung the Saint Benedict medal. On his chest, the scapula, and in his heart, an iron resolve. He knew what he had to do. Munich, Germany. January 15th, 1953. 2 months and 10 days after the meeting. Klaus Bäcker knocked on the door of a small house in the Schwabing district. It was evening, 6:30 p.m. Snow fell gently on the still partially ruined streets of the post-war city. The door opened. A woman of about 35 appeared, looking wary. Frau Schneider, Klaus asked. Yes, I am Chaplain Bäcker. Your sister told me you were going through some difficult times. May I come in for a few minutes? The woman hesitated, then opened the door. Inside, Klaus immediately saw the signs. A clean but joyless house, children's toys scattered about, a heavy silence despite the presence of 3 children watching television. My husband left 6 months ago, Frau Schneider said without preamble. He has another woman. The children have nightmares every night. The eldest has started stealing at school. The little one refuses to eat. And me. She stopped on the verge of tears. I don't know what to do anymore. Klaus gently placed his bag on the table. Frau Schneider, may I show you something? He took out 5 objects, a rosary, a small bottle of water, a medal, a wooden crucifix, a scapular. These objects, he began, may seem simple, but they carry a power that few people yet understand. If you allow me, I would like to tell you what a saint in Italy revealed to me 2 months ago. Frau Schneider sat down slowly. Something in Klaus's calm voice, something in his quiet certainty, made her want to listen. Klaus began to speak. He spoke of Padre Pio. He spoke of the 5 objects. He spoke of the promises. He spoke of protection, of peace, of restoration. 3 hours later, Frau Schneider agreed. Klaus blessed the objects according to the exact formulas that Padre Pio had taught him. He hung the family rosary near the front door. He placed the crucifix in the children's room. He gave the scapular to Frau Schneider. He left the St. Benedict medal and the holy water with precise instructions. Do this for 30 days, he said. Each evening, sprinkle the house with the holy water. Each morning, touch the rosary while reciting a Hail Mary for your family. Put the scapular on your children when they sleep and observe, and in 30 days, tell me what has happened. A month later, Klaus received a letter. He read it with trembling hands. Dear Father Bäcker, I don't know how to explain this. The first night after your visit, for the first time in 6 months, my 3 children slept through the night without nightmares. All night. My eldest son came to me 3 days later and confessed his stealing, weeping. My little girl started eating again, but that's not all. Yesterday, my husband came back. He knocked on the door, in tears. He told me that he couldn't explain why, but that he felt he had to return, that something was pulling him home. He broke up with the other woman. He wants to try again. Father, I don't know if it's really because of these objects or if it's just a coincidence, but I know this. For the first time in a year, I have hope. For the first time, I feel that God has not abandoned my family. Thank you. Thank you 1,000 times. Katharina Schneider. Klaus folded the letter and put it in a drawer where he already kept 15 other similar letters. 15 families in 2 months. It was a beginning. He thought of Padre Pio. He thought of the tears of Our Lady. And he knew that this mission was only just beginning. San Giovanni Rotondo, Italy. September 23rd, 1968. Klaus Bäcker, now 52 years old, stood before the open casket of Padre Pio. The Capuchin saint had died early that morning. His stigmata, borne for 50 years, mysteriously vanished in the hours leading up to his death, leaving his hands perfectly smooth. Around Klaus, thousands of people wept, but the German chaplain did not weep. He smiled. In his pocket he carried a letter he'd received just yesterday from Katharina Schneider, now Katharina Hoffmann. After her husband remarried her, Dear Father Bäcker, it's been 15 years since you visited us that snowy night in 1953. I wanted to give you an update. My husband and I are still together, stronger than ever. Our 3 children are now teenagers. All 3 wear the scapular. All 3 recite the rosary, but that's not all. Over the years, we've shared your teaching on the 5 objects with 37 other families. Those families have shared it with others. Yesterday, I met a woman from Hamburg who told me her grandmother had told her about the 5 objects of Padre Pio. The chain continues. Thank you, Father. Thank you for listening to that holy man. Thank you for having the courage to share with us what seemed crazy at the time. With eternal gratitude, Klaus folded the letter and put it back in his pocket. He looked one last time at Padre Pio's peaceful face in the coffin. Mission accomplished, Padre, he whispered. The seed has been planted, and it continues to grow. He made the sign of the cross, touched his St. Benedict medal, and left the chapel. Outside, the sun was shining. A new day was beginning. Today, November 5th, 2024, 72 years, exactly, after Padre Pio revealed the 5 sacred objects to Klaus Bäcker. Maybe you're listening to this story with skepticism. Maybe you think these are superstitions from another era. Maybe you're wondering if these objects really have power, or if it's just self-suggestion. But ask yourself this question: why have these objects survived 2,000 years of Christian history? Why have millions of Catholics throughout the centuries testified to their effectiveness? Why does the Church itself continue to bless them and recommend them? The answer is simple: because they work. Not like magic, not like pagan amulets, but as channels of grace. As Padre Pio explained to Klaus, they work because faith needs concrete anchor points in a material world. They work because God, who created us body and soul, understands that we need visible and tangible signs. So, here's the question you need to ask yourself today, on this November 5th, exactly 72 years after the revelation. Do you possess these 5 objects? A family rosary, blessed specifically for your family. Holy water in your home, not just at church. A St. Benedict medal, blessed with the appropriate exorcism. A crucifix in your bedroom, facing your bed. A scapular of Mount Carmel, bestowed according to the rites. If the answer is no, the real question is, why not? What do you have to lose? An hour of your time to go see a priest, a few dollars to buy these objects, a little of your intellectual pride to admit that maybe, just maybe, the saints knew something we've forgotten. And what do you have to gain? The protection of your family, the peace in your home, a shield against attacks you don't even see coming, an anchor of grace in a world that's becoming increasingly dark. Klaus Bäcker died in 1992 at the age of 76. In his last will and testament, he requested that he be buried with 5 objects: a rosary, a medal, a scapular, a crucifix, and a small empty bottle of holy water on his grave in Munich. Someone engraved this sentence. He understood that spiritual weapons are not optional. Padre Pio was right. Our Lady was weeping in 1952 because she saw the future. She saw our time. A time when even believers walk unarmed in a spiritual battle that rages around them. But she also wept with hope because she knew that some would listen, that some would take these objects seriously, that some families would protect themselves. The question is, will you be one of those families? You do it today, November 5th, at noon. This is the moment Padre Pio saw. This is the moment you must decide. The 5 sacred objects are not guarantees against all problems. They are not magic formulas for an easy life, but they are shields, anchor points, constant reminders that you are not alone in this battle. So go, find a priest who still understands the power of sacramentals. Obtain these 5 objects, have them blessed properly, use them with faith. And in 30 days, observe what changes. Maybe nothing dramatic, maybe just an inexplicable peace, a deeper sleep, arguments that subside more easily, children who seem calmer, a protective presence that you can't see, but that you can feel. Or maybe something bigger, an unexpected return, an unexplained healing, protection during a moment of danger that you will only realize later. Whatever happens, you will have done your part. You will have accepted the weapons that God offers. You will have listened to the tears of Our Lady, and 72 years after Padre Pio received this revelation, you will have helped to ensure that the mission continues. The seed planted in 1952 is still growing. The chain continues, and today you have the chance to be a part of it. What will you do with this chance?